I am such a proponent of specializing, but a lot of people do it the wrong way. This is the problem. When people say the riches are in the niches, that doesn't mean you only show up with a portion of your value, because that's how you put yourself in a beginner category.
Hi, and welcome to the Hard to Market podcast. I'm your host, Brian Mattocks. With me today is Ann Carden from Expert in You. Welcome, Ann.
Hey, Brian, thanks so much. It's great to be here with you.
And if you could give us a little bit more insight about your business, I'd love to kind of dig in a little bit more as we go.
Absolutely. So I have really two sides to my business. I am a strategic growth consultant, an advisor. So I work with people on growth strategies and building their business, but I also help them on the marketing and sales side I have a media and marketing agency called Expert in You. And so it's all around building that authority in the market, but even more than that, building strategic influence so they can close big deals and shorten sales cycles and just really take their business to new levels.
So, in a lot of our episodes, we typically would talk about sort of your business, but since you're an expert in helping other businesses solve this problem as well, I'd love to get some insight from you as to maybe some of the sort of core challenges that your clients would face in trying to solve this problem. What are they kind of doing wrong on a regular basis that,
Mhm.
you help them solve?
Absolutely. So, one of the things that I see is when people have been in their business for quite a while, they've built up expertise, they've built up client results, and they do great work, but their business does not often elevate to that level. So they are still working with clients that are beneath their skills, beneath their level of expertise. They don't have their marketing dialed in so that they really come across as top of their industry. And so those are all the things that I help them fix. So I really take experts and I elevate everything they're doing in their business. So they're closing those bigger deals, getting those bigger clients, being seen the way they deserve to be seen.
So, what does that mean? I want to get a little more insight as to what does it mean to be seen the way you deserve to be seen?
Yeah, so I work with a lot of experts that you would never know they're experts. They're kind of quietly experts. So they're great if they are out there maybe networking or building relationships and they get referrals. They might get referrals. But if you look at, we're influenced by what we see online today, whether you think you want to market online or not, everyone needs to be building their influence online. They need to be seen online because people are influenced that way. And so even if you get a referral, and I tell my clients this all the time, someone sends you a referral, that person is still going to check you out. That's just how we do things, right? That's just how we are, our human nature, because we have that opportunity now to do that. We haven't always really had that opportunity. But
Right.
now we do. We can go to LinkedIn and look at the person. We can Google them. We can use AI. Hey, what do you know about this person? Well, if you don't have all of that in place online, you're going to secretly miss business. You're going to miss opportunities. That person, even though that person referred you, they don't know that much about you and they may not take that next step with you. If you think about two people, one is out there, they're visible, you can clearly see what they do, how great they are. There's this credibility, there's this influence and this authority, and they just literally look like a rock star in their industry. And then there's this other person that you really can't find out much about, don't know much about, even if you go to their website, they're under the about our team, but you don't know much about that person. Who are you going to probably do business with? It's just
Right.
human nature. So if you're missing that piece in your business, and a lot of experts are, they haven't built up. It goes beyond a personal brand. A brand is important and everyone needs a brand, whether that's a company or a person, but it goes beyond that. It's about literally building the credibility and showing people the expertise that you have and showing people why they should be the one to choose and showing people that you are better than a lot of people in your industry. But people get passed over. A lot of experts get passed over for business because they don't look any better than a beginner or someone who doesn't have the experience or the depth of knowledge or skills that they have. So this is what I mean by helping them elevate. We want that to show. We want that to shine so that they get chosen for the deals, for the clients, for the business that they deserve to win because they've been at the game a long time. They've earned it. They've earned the right to win that business. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it's interesting. The idea that that is uh, a mismatch of expectations
Mhm.
versus, capabilities is kind of the part that I'm dialing into.
Yes.
Uh, when you suggest then the sort of techniques that you're looking to use to help them grow and develop that expertise, what are the kind of the easy layups that folks are using, or even more interesting perhaps are the things that everyone resists doing but turn out to be the most effective?
Hmm. Stepping into the expert spotlight is what I call it. And that's everything from building an expert platform, maybe having your own show, being a guest on shows, speaking on stages, building up. When I say an expert platform, how can people really go learn about you, learn from you, uh, be able? If you look at all anybody who you might follow, they have built expert platforms. They're seen. People can consume their content. But it goes even beyond that. They really have established themselves as the person that people should choose and here are the reasons why. So when we talk about, building that up for people, it's going to be different for everyone, but I call them high level marketing and sales strategies. You're in the spotlight. You're speaking on a stage, you're running virtual events, you have your own show, you're guesting on shows, you're in the media. It's all of those things, but you also need a strategy behind it to turn that into revenue. So this is a missing piece for a lot of people. They're building the authority, they're building the credibility, but they're not generating revenue because they're still missing the growth piece. They're still missing the business piece, which is why I do both. I work with people on both. It's like I can help you build your authority and market and do all of those things and be seen as the expert. But if you don't have a great business model behind what you're doing, you're still not going to have the growth and make the money that you can. So,
Okay. So, what are some of the biggest surprises that you come across with some of your clientele? I mean, expertise is pretty diverse. The human experience has a
mhm.
whole range of things that folks do, independent of just kind of industry obscurity. What are some surprises you've come across in your work?
It has, I don't know if I would say surprises necessarily, but just if we think about some really great wins, when clients have elevated and done the things that, I help them build that revenue model that will actually elevate what they're doing. So here's an example. A social media agency selling their services, but the person running the agency is brilliant and has insights and a psychology background and strategy, but the clients that they're working with doesn't even realize that. So helping, I think about one of my clients. So we stepped her into an advisory role where she could identify the gaps and be able to show a company that she was already doing social media services for, be able to show them if you have these things going in your business where the gaps will close between your marketing and sales, what we're doing for you would actually work better. Well, they didn't even realize she could do that. They didn't even know that she had that experience, that skill set, that knowledge. And so we put together an advisory offer for her where she could go in and show them the gaps that they had. And they said yes to that immediately. And then I showed her how to open the door to make that an even bigger engagement. So the result was she had a $350,000 an upsell with an existing client. So that's what I'm talking about when I say people aren't playing at the level that they can, people haven't elevated to the level that they can, all their values not showing, everything that they can bring to the table isn't being capitalized on because they haven't done these things. A lot of times clients don't even know that they're capable of doing those things because they might be selling one little thing or one little piece. So I extract all of that. So when I talk about surprises, I don't know if they're surprises because the people that I work with, they have a lot more to bring to the table. But it's always fun to uncover that and then show them how to leverage that and help them make really big leaps. But I
Yeah.
do think about a lot of my clients are nervous about getting on podcasts. They're nervous about starting their own show. They're nervous about speaking on stages. But once I get them doing that, they're like, this is so much fun. I don't know why I haven't been
Yeah.
doing this all along. And so I would say that's probably a surprise is just how their whole mind set and how their whole demeanor shifts. And all of a sudden I see them elevating themselves and their
Mm.
confidence and even how they lead their teams, like all of that. Those are probably some of the surprises I would say.
I I wanna go back to something you said, that I find really quite interesting because it seems to create some tension. Um, you mentioned the helping, some of your clients understand the full scope of the things that they're capable of. That seems to fly in the face of the sort of social guidance or the general guidance out there that the riches are in the niches, if you will, and that
Mhm.
you need to be hyper specialized and hyper focused. Is that just a misapplication on your client's part of understanding what that means? And they go, well, I can only do this tiny little thing. Or what's going on there in kind of that conversation? I'm sure you've had to break that open in the past for your clients.
Absolutely, and I am such a proponent of specializing, but a lot of people do it the wrong way, Brian, and this is the problem. When people say the riches are in the niches, that doesn't mean you only show up with a portion of your value,
Mm.
because that's how you put yourself in a beginner category. Um, when I think about competition in the market, there are people that have been around, like myself. I've been an entrepreneur. I've been in business for over 40 years, an entrepreneur for 35 years, right? And if I'm only selling LinkedIn, even though that's such a huge part of what I do with my clients, but I'm only selling that and I'm
Yeah.
not selling anything to the fact that I've built and sold businesses. I've worked with hundreds of clients in 80 industries. Like if none of that is coming out, I don't look any different than a commodity. I mean, I'm a commodity at that point. I only am selling LinkedIn. And so now I'm competing with everyone else. And this is what happens a lot with people in the market, with beginners. Beginners don't have all of that experience. They don't have all of that background and that knowledge and that value to bring to the table. So when I see experts, an example, selling a $97 membership, like I cringe. I just cringe because to me, not that those things, and they haven't done anything like that is their whole business or that's what they're trying to do. Or I see a doctor trying to do something like that. I'm like, you are missing the biggest opportunity you have. So now you're competing with people that don't have a lot to bring to the table, and you're putting yourself in the same category as them. So specializing means when I help my clients, I do help them specialize, but I help them specialize in a category of one. So they bring all of their value to the table. We create and curate that in a way that nobody else can compete with them, but they still get to utilize all of their skills, all of their knowledge, all of their value. So even though, here's an example, my expert in you elevation is my method, helping them package those six and multi six figure offers, helping them with their market influence positioning, helping them with their high level marketing and sales, and then expanding. So, all of that is part of my expert in you elevation system. Within that, there's a lot that I do with my clients that I already just talked about. But if I did not, but I can do that with firms. I can do that with any kind of professional service providers. I can do that with legal agencies, but nobody else has my method. Nobody else has my process. Nobody else does in what they deliver the same way that I deliver. And so my method and really my expert in you elevation process is what sets me apart. So the riches and the niches can be your process. It can be the way you do things. It doesn't have to be, I only work with CPAs, I only work with consultants. It doesn't have to be that. That is really what a higher level expert does. Now, it can be when you think about like specializing in an industry, that's more for a marketing campaign. It doesn't have to be your business model, if that makes sense. So some of that is I can go out, like I've worked again in over 80 different industries. I can go out and really help any kind of business grow. Like that's just not even,
Right.
you know, but if I want to get the most traction in my business, I know who my best clients are. I know the industries that they're in, and I know what they need. And that's where the specialization comes in. So, does that make sense? I
So the specialization that you're talking about is really market forward, not skill forward. Is that
it's
a reasonable way to say it?
yes, in a way. Yes, in a way. I mean, obviously your skills are your skills, right? But yes, you're right. It's not just taking a piece of something. Now, I'm not saying you can't build a business like that. You absolutely can. It's one play. But I do find I don't want to only sell a piece of what I do.
Right.
And most true experts that have spent years building, years learning, growing, they're not fulfilled with that. Like I'm not fulfilled. I know how to teach people how to build a Facebook group and make money from it. I've done it. But I'm not fulfilled with that. I have so much more to offer people and so much more working at such a different level. And so I'm not saying that you cannot build like that. You can. But for most people that have a lot of depth of experience and knowledge, that's not very fulfilling to them.
Right. It's interesting because I think, we're experiencing a little bit of a social sort of shift in the opposite direction if you think about it, right? A lot of what the current SaaS models that are out there, a lot of the tools that are out there are so hyper, small, narrow problem focused
Mhm.
that you lose you get a lot of depth in a very, very narrow slice.
Mhm.
But the moment you kinda need to go left or right, you have to add on yet another SaaS or yet another solution to solve that problem. And what
Mhm.
you're suggesting is that in the context of the expert delivery that you help with, the real, you may enter the market at any one of those sort of slices, but
Perfect.
the objective there is to immediately let them know, like, "Hey, you're not dealing with somebody who's just good at this. If you get all these pieces working together, you can multiply your outputs."
Bingo. That's it. That was so well said, Brian. It really is about transformation. And here's some interesting statistics that I just put out in some content.
Mm.
McKinsey and Deloitte have said that like the consulting and the professional service industry is going to hit trillions of dollars in the next 2 years in 2026 and 2027. But they also said that the premium market is going to be where the real opportunity is, which is great news for me because that's where I help people play, right? So I'm like, "Oh, yes,
Sounds
this is
good.
great. Finally, now it's not a want anymore. Now it's a need, right? If you wanna
Yeah,
stay
yeah.
relevant in the market, go high." The reason for that is but if you think about it, like if corporations or companies are going to be hiring people in that capacity, they're gonna be looking for people that can do more than deliver one little thing. Like those days,
Yeah.
those people are gonna be competing at the bottom. The people that can deliver one little thing or do one little thing really well, that's great, but that's all they're going to get hired for. The people that can do transformations and real outcomes and real results, and they have more experience to bring to the table, and maybe one person can replace four because they've got that background and that knowledge. That's where the real money's going to come in. So, this is actually what happened with my client that I was talking about with the big upsell. She they when they saw what she could do and they saw what she could bring to the table, it was going to be cheaper to pay her $413,000 a year
Yeah,
than it
yeah.
was to keep the people that they had. and still try to do things
Yeah.
that weren't really working that well anyway, right?
Right.
So
Across 10 different disconnected functions and all of the
exactly,
stuff that comes with that.
exactly.
Right.
So companies are going to be looking for people that have all of that value to bring to the table and can offer so much more. And the cool thing about that is once you're in with them, they're not going to go out looking for the next person because there's
Right.
not going to be another you. And so once you're in with companies and you're giving transformation, they are not easy. They don't wanna spend the time to go out there and find somebody else
Yeah.
unless you're just not doing a good job. So that's where the real opportunity is going to be. It's not gonna be okay, not to offend anybody, but I call them one trick ponies.
Yeah. Yeah.
The one trick ponies that know how to do one thing. But it's also a grind to be in that kind of a business, in my opinion. You're always out there looking for the next customer and client.
Yeah. I think there's some, I'm sure that you know this, but I think there's some brilliance in a lot of what you're saying, right? With, um, if you think about this for just even a moment as a practitioner or as some sort of as part of your go to market strategy, you have options, right? If you go with somebody who says, "Listen, I want you to print my labels, or I want you to produce this single video," that sounds like okay, cool. I know how to do that. I can solve that problem. But what you're buying on the customer side, the customers you're buying with that offering, right?
Mhm,
Because you're both buying something, right? You're buying customers buying a service from you, and you're buying essentially a customer with that service.
mhm,
Um, don't buy bad customers. Folks that are coming at you at a strictly transactional way
mhm,
aren't a good fit because you have, again, this capacity or this capability. I think that's a really strong market differentiator in terms of, how you're going to market.
mhm.
How does that sounds like quite a lengthy education process for your customers to go through. I mean, I imagine that learning doesn't come easy.
It's It's so interesting, when I do this with my clients, the people that come to me already know they have a lot more to do. Like, they already know they should be further along, they already know they have more to offer and more to give. They just don't know how to put the pieces together, and I will say, in their defense, it is darn hard to do for yourself. It is so hard. I This is why I started doing this years ago because I couldn't find anybody. If I go back to when I first started, like, doing business
Mhm.
coaching and consulting, I was taught all the kind of low end strategies. You bring clients in and I wasn't getting paid a lot, and yet I was helping them get these amazing results, and I was like, "Okay, I've spent a lot of years learning what I've learned, and I'm fast forwarding their success, and they're doing better than they've ever done, but guess who's not making money?" Like, there was just this
Yeah,
problem. I also wasn't getting to utilize all of my skills because I wasn't bringing in the clients that really could utilize. They weren't like it was a they weren't far enough along to be able to really help them in the capacity that I really could. So, I found it very unfulfilling, very frustrating. So, I lived all this. And Brian, I couldn't find anybody to help me like, with what I wanted to do, with what I felt in my gut I was able to do for people and how to put the pieces together. And it took me a long time to figure this out. And when I did, and I implemented this into my business just exploded. And then I'm like, okay, can I help other people do the same thing? And the same thing happened with them. And I knew then that there was such a gap in the market. I call it the elevation gap. You've got startup and getting good at what you do over here, and then you've got scaling. Nowhere in the middle is anybody closing the gap. So
right.
people are jumping over the elevation phase in business. They're not going as high as they can and then scaling that. They're trying to
Yeah,
scale what they first did or what they originally did. And that's why they end up a lot of the clients that I work with have tried to scale and they have found they're unfulfilled. They're working with clients beneath their skill set. They don't feel like their value is really being seen or appreciated.
yeah. You get
All
this
of that
whole.
I talked about. Yeah. So they
It's
come
like
back.
a.
Yeah, they
Yeah,
come back and now we're elevating them. So it's like it's
it,
such a skipped phase in business.
it's that old commercial from the '80s with from Dunkin' Donuts. It's they get into this situation, time to go make the donuts kind of thing. Like, yeah,
Yes.
And so I'm doing this, profoundly complex problem solve, and you're buying it as, you know, this tiny little tic tac kind of
Mhm.
offering.
Mhm.
And that's really frustrating on the inside out. As a consultant, I've had that
It
experience
is.
myself. It's like you guys have no idea, and then you get
What I'm
resentful.
capable
Yeah,
of
yeah,
doing.
exactly, and you get
Yes,
resentful of
yes.
your clients along the
Mhm.
way if you're not careful because you're
Ah,
like,
yes.
"I'm doing this
Yeah.
profoundly powerful, capable thing. You have no idea how long it took me to get here."
Yes, that is oh my gosh, yes, you're getting exactly you're picking up what I'm laying down here.
There you go.
That is so true. That is again, those are the people I work with. They know that. They know there's just more for them. So when you talk about it being an educational thing, it's kind of not like if they come across my content, I'm speaking this, right?
Yeah,
You're only
it's
bringing
it's
a
all
portion of
emotional
your
language.
value. Yes, it's all part of your marketing, strategy and your influence. I'm preaching this everywhere I go. You're
Yeah,
playing below. And it goes beyond I just get so crazed all the time with especially in the online world, just raise your prices, do a whatever offer. But there's a difference in transactions and transformations, and I work with people on a transformational level. I help them be, I help transform their business and them, even them. And most people are out there they're doing transactions. I always worry, like a Facebook. I've been shut down on Facebook, and I always think you've built your whole business on Facebook. Your whole business is on Facebook.
yeah,
If you get shut down, you are literally out of business. Like that's just the craziest thing to me. So I don't that's not how I help people build a real business that's gonna be around for a long time. It's about fundamentals, it's about
yeah,
foundations that when I got shut down on Facebook, my business did not shut down because I was on LinkedIn and I had a YouTube channel and I had an email list and I knew how to go out and network and I knew how to go speak on stages and get on podcasts. Like that was just such a small piece of what I knew to do. It was annoying and it was frustrating and it took a lot of time I lost a lot because
yeah,
you spend a long time building those assets, but at the end of the day, it did not shut me down, and that's the worry that I see for people. If you don't know how to foundationally build businesses, you can go away with just we saw it in COVID even, the pandemic.
yeah,
Many people went away because they didn't even know how to begin building online. They had
yeah,
no idea. I'm like, You need a hybrid. You know how to build offline. You need to know how to build offline. You need to know how to build online, and you should be building both ways. And if you don't know how to do that, you're really susceptible to economic changes, to internet shutdowns, to whatever is going on, and I teach people how to not be in that situation.
yeah, for sure. I mean, and that sounds like a functional sort of, part of the go-to-market strategy conversation that you're
Mhm.
having. When, what a lot of folks, kind of, I think, struggle with, and I see this in a lot with the clients that we have and the folks we've had on the show, is that they wrestle with, how to try and create that or compel that value at a transformational level for an audience that's not buying, like, that transaction's not happening on their website. Like, this is not
Mhm.
how this works, right? Nobody's gonna go to your website and be like, "Yes, I want your, $300,000 offering."
Exactly.
Go to right? That's not a
They
thing
don't
we
go through
do.
funnels, no.
Right,
No.
exactly. So
Mhm.
so this is an interesting part of the conversation because everyone out there selling, a course for 500 bucks on how to do this is like, all funnel all the time.
Mhm.
And this is very, very, I mean, I'm almost hearing that you're anti-funnel. Is that
I
is that
have funnels, but
close?
well, okay, so everything's a funnel, right? It doesn't matter what you're doing, everything is a funnel. You've got the
Right.
top of the funnel, people have to know about you, and you have to make some kind of an offer for them to get into your funnel, and yes, it is smart to get people on your email list and all that kind of thing, but, you really have to understand your buyers and the psychology of your buyers. Busy CEOs are not gonna buy a $7 thing and then wait for you to like show them that you know how to, help them add millions of dollars to their business. It's not,
Right, right.
happen that way. So it really does come down to who you are trying to attract and what that whole system is. I'm not anti-funnel, but there is a place and a time for them. And if you're on the internet for very long, you're just one funnel away, right? And so you
Always.
know that, right? But what I have found, just like so I mentioned a doctor selling a $97 membership. What a lot of people don't realize is that isn't where you start a business. That's not really even where you make such a big impact. You can, if you want to sell $27 courses all day and run ads and all that,
Yeah.
you absolutely can build a business that way.
On
Those are just
5% margins with
those are just not, yeah,
70,000 clients,
exactly,
right?
and it's all volume. So mine
Right.
is I am a bit anti-volume
Mm,
because I am more about premium and quality. When I talk about volume, and here's the other reason why I think McKinsey and Deloitte was spot on when they said the real play is going to be in premium, because as more and more people enter the market in professional services, and that was one of the things they talked about in the research I did, there are going to be, even though this is going to be, go to trillions of dollars in the next 2 years, we are going to see competition like we have never seen competition before, because companies are now downsizing. AI is taking jobs. We already know all of that's happening. Well, what are those people going to do? They're going to start businesses. And so, but here's the good news. They don't have to start at the bottom if they've got real world expertise and all of that, but they have to
yeah.
think differently. If they fall into the funnel trap, this is why volume is not going to work real well. And gurus are already seeing this. They're already seeing not the people showing up at their events that they did. They're seeing ad costs are higher than this has been going on really for the last several years.
Mm,
Volume is getting harder and harder and harder. But if you are in a premium market and you have elevated your business to be in a premium market, that is still a very small pond for people that
yeah.
have the expertise to do that. So
And that
you're not competing at the same level.
yeah, and it sounds like you have a lot of experience with your clients understanding that buyer process,
Mhm.
because it is profoundly different. These aren't the folks that are, again, buying the $7 ebook to then, upsell them to a $100 class to then upsell them to a
Right.
$1,000 whatever, right? You're
Busy
talking
people don't
about
buy like that.
yeah,
They
yeah,
don't buy
you're
like
talking about something else entirely. So, it sounds like, a lot of the expertise you're bringing to the table here is an understanding of that buying process.
Exactly. That it is, and we figure out what is going to be the best way for them to get in front of the people with the right positioning, with the right offers, all of that, and what's going to be the best way. And but then along with that, we're going to build their influence. We're going to build their online. It goes beyond just their online presence, but everything that we do is to drive revenue. So a lot of people start a podcast to put out value, to put out content. That's not what we do. There's a more strategic approach in the way we utilize those assets so that they are either working through the people they're having on their show
Right.
to get to the right people, or they are actually interviewing the people on their show that could be clients for them or could be referral partners for them. So we work at we elevate the level that we work at that, and nothing is done just for noise and,
Yeah.
do nothing, even media. Look, when I put, like, my clients in my magazine and I do a 4-page spread on them, I teach them how to leverage that asset to now build that credibility, but also open the door with the clients that are the people that they think could be clients. So there's always a strategic play behind everything I help my clients do. Nothing from their LinkedIn newsletter to their profile, nothing is left to chance. We don't just put out thought leadership content. No, no, no.
Right.
There's going to be strategic influence behind that thought leadership content. People are going to be booking you on stages because of that thought leader content. People are going to be booking on your calendar because of that content. Like, there's a strategy behind it. And it's a missing piece for a lot of people.
Yeah, I can see that, and, it's your assessment of how to use podcasts is also spot on with how we're going to market with what we do at the at Podcast Chef, which is very much like the likelihood of you winning any clients from folks listening to your podcast is
Listening.
relatively
Mhm.
low. Like,
Yes.
if you want to go swim at the bottom of the pond selling the $2 trinkets, like by all means, grow your podcast to that
Mhm.
audience. But what you really should be using it for is connecting to the people that you
Yes.
wanna get in front of, right? And a
Yes.
podcast is just a very powerful way to do that. So, so it's awesome that we've kind of, got alignment on that conceptually and how we
Mhm.
go to market. I am just enthralled with a lot of what you're talking about when it comes to that sort of buying process, and what that looks like and how that works. Your, are is it fair to say, and please correct me if I'm mistaken, that a fair amount of your clients are like professional services kind of experts?
Yeah, they're all professional service experts. So kind of two sides. Either they want to get into like the consulting or the professional services space. Maybe they're like a corporate CEO that now wants to start his own business, but he has all of this expertise. So I help them build out their model, their influence, all
Right.
of that at a high level, not a low level. And so I will help people start businesses, but only if they are bringing to the table true expertise that we can really leverage and package
Right.
and put all that together. The other side, though, is people that, again, know they deserve so much more from their business. They're getting passed over because they haven't, they're still, in a way, doing the same things they've always done.
Mhm.
And they haven't elevated to the level. They haven't brought their business up to match the level of expertise that they've acquired through the years. And those are my real people because often they've got opportunity and money sitting right there in front of them that they're not even capturing.
Yeah.
People that would gladly pay them a lot more money, but they don't even know. They don't even know that they can do that, or they don't
Right.
even know what they're capable of or why they should hire them. So,
That's awesome. I wanna first and foremost thank you so much for being on the show today. Before we wrap up here, I have 2 quick questions. First, who should be reaching out to you and how can they get a hold of you?
yes. So, anyone that is selling professional services, you might be running a firm of some kind, but you are basically selling your expertise. Those are going to be my clients. You're ready to elevate. You're ready to step up your game. You know there's so much more. You're tired of getting passed over or not being seen or not known the way you deserve to be known. You want to make more revenue and more profit because when you work at a high level, you make a lot more profit. So if that is you, then those would be people. The other side of that would be people that are ready to enter entrepreneurship, and they're coming from real experience, real expertise, but they don't know how to put everything together, and they're very growth minded. They're not thinking small; they're thinking big. I don't work with small thinkers, and they're like, you know what? I want to build my own $1 million consulting business. I wanna build my own $5 million consulting business. So those would be my people as well.
And how can they get a hold of you?
You can get a hold of me if you like what I'm saying and you just wanna book a call. I'm not gonna put you through some major funnel. You can go to
Oh,
acarden dot
man.
yeah, yeah, you can go to acarden.com and you can book a call with me, and we can talk about what you're wanting to do. But you also can check out my websites as well and see all the different things that I offer, and I have a lot of books out there and magazine and lots of podcast, YouTube channel, so
Right. The whole
you won't have any
shebang.
trouble finding me. Just Google me.
So, and the last question today is an opportunity for kind of the show to stick the landing and you to stick the landing, as it were. In your sort of entrepreneurial timeline here, in your experience, what are the 3 biggest takeaways that you've picked up in your journey so far?
Mm. The 3 biggest takeaways is get help from someone that can move you faster, really move you forward faster, because business is not waiting any longer, and it is you really will become irrelevant very quickly if you are trying to DIY things. So that would be the first thing. A lot of people think they can DIY it, they can get the information, but information doesn't equate to being able to do it. So that's where I believe everybody now needs help because things are moving at warp speed. It's just not like the old days, right?
Yeah.
Um, the second thing I would say, especially with AI coming onto the scene, is don't think AI can do it all for you. you still, again, you're going to need some real expertise or help probably because I use AI and it's still, unless you know what to put in or you know what you don't know, it's only
Right.
gonna be so good, right? And the third thing is don't play small. Think big, go big. I heard a quote one time, why would you shoot for the moon if or why would the sky be the limit if there are footprints on the moon?
Yeah.
And I that always stuck with me, and I thought, yeah, you do not have limits. So if you're gonna be in entrepreneurship, gosh, go for playing at the top.
Yeah. I
It will
love it.
serve you so well.
Thank you so much again for coming on our show today.
Thank you. Thanks for having me. This was fun.